Welcome back to Fast Politics, Rick Wilson.
Molly Jong-Fast.
How are you, friend?
You know what? I am better than I was on Friday.
And wow, you know who is even better? Donald J. Trump.
He had a weekend off, well, just as we all have, and he's down there in Mar-a-Lago having a sort of end of the era party to express his understanding and his truly deep connection to the working people of America by having a party with the Pussycat Dolls or whatever the fuck it was.
Gatsby-themed.
As one does.
As one does. But the federal government itself is just moving along smoothly, and no place is that more clear than in the Department of Transportation, which was once a DEI project, but is now run by white men. And
you know, all I can say is thank God that we've got the crackerjack team of former reality TV star Sean Duffy and a variety of other window-licking morons in charge of the nation's air traffic control system right now. Because, and here's the part, as a pilot, because pilots always like to say that as a pilot.
So Rick Wilson, you and I are longtime friends, and yes. I have never flown with you.
Well, I'm gonna fix that problem.
No, you won't. But I do know that you're a very skilled pilot. So
you know what? I am a safe pilot, and I'm a guy in the instrument pilot safety cult. And if you're a pilot right now flying a big iron aircraft with passengers in it, you have a deep sort of respect for the trust all those people put in you, and you rely on a system that the taxpayers pay for to help you stay safe in the air and to avoid those big metal tubes running into each other in the sky, which is a very bad outcome. And right now it's literally on the backs of individual pilots trying to talk to each other in the air because the air traffic control towers in this country, one after the other, are shutting down right now.
Explain to us why, Rick Wilson.
We're on now day 29 or something like that of the shutdown. I don't know when it's going to be when we air this,
right?
But it's let's call it a month. The air traffic controllers are not getting paychecks. Now, you know who is getting paychecks? The masked thug guys jumping out of cars, zip tying children. They're getting their full paycheck.
The people who couldn't necessarily make it into the army or the police.
Well, look, most of these people couldn't make it into the Paul Blart Rental Cop Academy.
Yes.
And
we love Paul Blart. He would never do this.
But long story short, right now we are shutting down the government because Donald Trump cannot have the 218th person sworn in who would vote to release the Epstein files, and because there is a faction inside the White House led by Russell Vought who believes we need to punish those poor black shirkers by taking away their food. And when I tell you that, I mean that is literally what they are saying inside the White House to one another.
And I do want to point out that, just for 2 seconds, 40% of the people on SNAP, supplemental assistant food stamps, 39% of them are children.
Yeah.
43% are white. They're not even black. They're white. They're in red states, and they're children. But go off.
Right. But do tell us more how they have to pull themselves up by their bootstraps at this point.
Right.
We took a look around our local area. And yesterday, and when people realized that that there was no SNAP benefits, there's an excellent local food bank program here in Tallahassee that had 650 people waiting in their cars overnight because there's no SNAP. We had people with women and children sleeping in their effing cars, Molly.
Yeah, red
state.
Governed by one of the kings of Trumpism.
Oh yeah, and Ron DeSantis has done nothing, nor to my knowledge have any other red state governors done a goddamn thing to say to Donald Trump, "Hey, our people are going to starve because of this. Why don't you open the goddamn government?"
But I do think Sean Duffy, in charge of our airspace, former reality television host, what we're seeing again and again is in the DOD, we had a former weekend Fox News host, Pete Hegseth.
Oh, yeah.
He also has not really been able to rise to the job.
No, and look, I think the reason we don't see them rising to the job is these people are subpar intellects, and they are in the broadest
possible. How government works.
In the broadest possible sense of explaining it to people, they have no idea what the F they're doing. And that problem is not improving their ability to manage these complex multivariate cases. Now, Pete Hegseth is very excited about going to war both with Venezuela and now Nigeria.
Yes, Nigeria
Which I
entered
just,
the
you
chat
know,
out of nowhere. What was the impetus of that?
I do not really understand the let's go to war with Nigeria idea quite yet. But I will say this. I doubt we will be greeted as liberators.
Well, we've had such success going into other countries and doing war with them for no reason. So why not?
Why wouldn't this work out just as well, you're
Well,
asking?
but
Yeah.
I would love you to take a minute to talk about, so we are pro bailouts for certain South American countries, but pro war for
For
other
others.
South American.
It is a magical set of mysterious criteria that we use now because Argentina, which, just to remind everybody, has an emergency food program for the poor, has universal childcare, has universal health care, has universal education for
Sounds kinda
pre-K
great.
and
Should we
university.
move there? Yeah.
I'm just going to say we're okay paying $40 billion to bail them out so that Milei could win his election, but we're not okay unleashing the $6 billion that is still in the government's bank account, that is the SNAP emergency fund for food aid to the poor. It is a very tempting thing to say that this is just Trump, doing Epstein, but there is also an element of this we have to think about and talk about that is the deliberate theater of cruelty, where Trump is canceling Thanksgiving
But also,
for millions of Americans.
Trump is doing cruelty, but Trump is also doing authoritarianism, right? Like, there's a
100%.
reason that he loves those people, and it's because they provide a roadmap. Putin, Orban,
Molly, absolutely correct. They are his peer group. They are his pals. They are the people that he says, man, I want America to look a lot more like those guys.
Yeah.
For all that we can bitch and moan about Donald Trump being an incompetent and all this, he has a tremendously skilled instinct for the authoritarian theater that the MAGA base really likes.
Correct. And that's how that's when you look at that split screen, okay, Saturday night, Great Gatsby party, celebration of wealth. Do you know how much it costs to join Mar-a-Lago now?
It's like $1 million now, right?
It's $1 million initiation fee. It used to be, and that, like, these golf clubs have high initiation fees, but
Sure.
$1 million is unprecedented.
Yeah,
Right.
look, he is getting $1 million for memberships at Mar-a-Lago. Let's all remember the reason of this, because he is the singularly most corrupt president in the history of the United States of America. There is nobody even close to this. And while he's off doing this whole Great Gatsby deal, it's not just that SNAP has been canceled. It's that the government is closed. It's that the economy is teetering on the edge. Let's not forget, folks, and it was a classic let's do it Friday night news dump. The Federal Reserve dumped a whole shit ton of equity into the markets Friday night.
Right.
On Halloween night.
And
after hours.
And also, Scott Bessent was shopping. I think this is like my favorite headline of the Sunday shows. If the Fed doesn't cut rates, we may have a recession. Oh, no, baby. That's not why we're going to have
a recession. No. We're having a recession because of y'all.
Yeah. It's like, if only the Fed will cut interest rates. It's like, well, I don't know who twisted him up into that, but it was like, yes.
But it was a thing of beauty, though.
Yeah.
I mean, that is a guy whose contortions, he's like an Eastern European gymnast at the Olympics in the 70s. He knows if he doesn't do the triple backflip and stick the landing, his family all has to go work on the collective labor potato farm or whatever.
But what you realize when you look at Scott Bessent, who I was told he was going to be the moderating voice.
I was told Scott Bessent was a grown-up.
A smart guy who made his money with George Soros.
Yeah. Yeah, why? Don't be afraid of Scott Bessent. He knows how to talk to Wall Street and knows exactly what the country's economy needs.
So who is a bigger coward and disappointment? Marco, man of all jobs, or Scott Bessent, just terrible at what he does, but also very snobby?
Marco, in my mind, just because I know the guy, is a worse disappointment because he had before the Trump era, at least to every single person who knew him from either intimately knew him or slightly knew him, this great hatred of authoritarianism.
Yes.
It was the
We
defining
seem to have
characteristic.
backtracked on that.
It was the defining characteristic of
Yeah.
what Marco was.
It's the
And now
Cuban
it's
thing,
like,
right.
yeah, I'm just going to let the boss and I are going to go and shoot up a bunch of boats and then invade Venezuela and Nigeria. Because why not?
They might be drug boats. They
Yeah,
probably are.
they might be drug boats, or it could just be,
Fishermen.
or they, much like the sort of truthiness thing that Stephen Colbert always talks about, they could be drug boat-ish.
They're drug boat adjacent. They're boats with people in them.
And sometimes people in boats have taken drugs in their lives, and therefore we really have to take steps.
We have to take steps. So it is the truthiest of truthisms. I want to get back for another minute to just like the sheer insanity of this moment, because it does feel very much like a moment teetering on the edge. Like the food stamps, the government funding, the government paycheck,
right.
Chicago having ICE in these fancy neighborhoods fighting with the moms and dads during the Halloween parade.
Let me tell you, that is an absolute provocation on their part. And I get why Trump is sending them in there and Miller's sending them in there, because they're trying to send a message to elite opinion types that they will exercise their alleged authority no matter what they want.
Right. So say more about that, because I think that's pretty interesting. So the idea here is they're going into fancy white neighborhoods to show fancy white people that they're the bosses, and that that crime, they mean you and your kids doing Halloween.
Yeah. And this is one more notch, I think, with Bovino, who like shows up in his Hugo Boss flowing Nazi style trench coats and all his cosplay body armor and all this other bullshit. And Miller and Noam having to actually admit something. They were not able, of the whatever the X is of folks who are not here with documentation.
Right.
They were not able to find 5% or 10% or 15% or 50% who were criminals.
No, they were not.
Because there weren't anything like those numbers. And Joe Biden and Barack Obama, and before them George W. Bush, were finding the criminal illegals and sending them the fuck back.
Yeah, we don't.
So this idea that they were going to round up like 25 million illegal criminals, they're all in MS-13. It was always bullshit. It was always a lie. And they can't find them because they ain't out there. So now they've got to get, Jose the gardener, or a guy who's a roofer, or a woman who's a home health care nurse, and pull them out of their car in front of their kids and beat them in front of their children, to do this show. And this show is all that matters to the media content machine of MAGA.
Right. So when you look at those numbers, and I saw reporting this week that showed the numbers were like, and again, I don't want to say paltry, because these are human beings being shipped on planes to places who the fuck knows where.
To foreign death camps. Yeah. Foreign gulags. Yeah.
But they're small numbers considering like Obama numbers. And so I wonder, like,
Molly, we were told this was the absolute existential crisis for this country, and if we didn't get these people out right now, the world was going to fall apart and millions of Americans would die of fentanyl.
And I was told that Stephen Miller was pulling out all the stops. So now does that mean he's no longer pulling out the stops? Like, what's the...
This is why they're still doing the bullshit of dragging American citizens out of their cars and out of their homes and raiding neighborhoods during a Halloween parade. And by the way, they really screwed up last week. They raided a festival out in Montana, a fall festival thing. All of the ICE agents in the country that are operating under a very, very narrow provision where the emergency is only legal within 100 miles of the U.S. border. Okay. So that's why even in Chicago, all over Texas, Arizona, New Mexico, they've got this big area they can claim as the U.S. border.
Right.
This thing was 500 miles from any United States border. they done effed up.
Oh, good.
So yeah, and look, and I will say this, I'm always like, we're only as good as our next legal ruling,
Yeah.
but we are seeing right now more and more judges saying, wait a minute, no, sir. I mean,
Good.
Bovino, who more people should know about.
Explain to us, and our listeners, who Bovino is.
Bovino is, if
It's a
you're
perfect
a
name.
World War II history aficionado, he's the Gauleiter of ICE. He's the military governor of these provinces. They send him into Chicago, and he ignores the civilian law enforcement, ignores the civilian political leadership, and says, here's how we're going to do it, and if you don't, I'll arrest you and I'll send you off to a camp. This guy is about 4'11",
As one is.
but he wears fancy flowing Hugo Boss style Nazi greatcoats.
Yeah.
And he's never shows up anywhere unless he's wearing body armor and his like tactical Timmy bullshit mall cop outfits. And he is widely known as a guy who really likes to brutalize people. He is a fucking thug.
We're kind of back to mall cops again.
We really are. But we're also at Nuremberg cops, because he's like, I'm just following my orders from my civilian leadership. This last week, we literally had Tom Homan saying, yeah, we got to cool off on some of these tactics. Tom Homan?
You'll remember Tom Homan.
I'm like, well.
He lives in my heart for when he took that $50,000 of cash.
In a kava bag.
And
chef's kiss, baby.
Refused to deny it. And then when asked about it, was that Pam Bondi who said,
right.
I'm sure he's taken $50,000 before?
I'm sure all of you have taken $50,000. Can I just say something? I've never taken $50,000 in a bag.
Yeah, well, it's early days, Rick Wilson. Early days. I'll tell you. Especially and by the way, the sheer elegance of having it in a kava bag.
Gorgeous, man. It's gorgeous. It is a work of. It is a scientific work of beauty to put it in a kava bag.
We would be laughing if we were not.
If we were not living in the most corrupt administration in the history of the United States government, and I include Grant.
Teapot Dome, baby.
Teapot Dome 2, Electric Boogaloo.
That's right. Will you come back?
As always.